Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Love Show podcast. Shane Kohler here. Pleasure, as always, to be with you. Looking forward to diving in today. Today, I'm doing things a little bit differently. So my wife and I, we were in South Florida for the last few days. We went down to celebrate a friend's birthday, and we were celebrating with her. We just got back yesterday afternoon, so I wasn't able to do my typical live stream podcast this week. This is just me sitting by myself in my office, but I wanted to make sure to show up for you, the listeners, and get a message out to you and send you some love, especially this season. And I don't know where you are right now, but I know a lot of us around the holidays, it can be a little bit of a weird time. And I wanted to talk about the idea of loneliness versus solitude, especially during the holiday season. And so if you're feeling lonely right now, or if you're feeling in isolation, or maybe you're not even alone or in isolation, but you're feeling like the holidays aren't what you think they should be, right? And, maybe you're with your family or you're with your friends, but you're not with a partner. And you think, well, the holidays would be so much better if I was with a partner. Or maybe you're with a partner, but you're not experiencing the holidays the way you feel they should be, even with your partner or with your family. And so, and any and all and everything in between, right? But wherever you are right now, I want to talk about this idea of loneliness versus solitude. And this actually came up. Somebody brought it up in my coaching circle last night. So every week I meet with my Inspired Love coaching circle. And as I said, I just got back yesterday afternoon, so I just had enough time to take a quick nap. And then we were traveling since like 4 a.m. So I got home, I took a quick nap, and then jumped on with my group. And we had a really powerful session last night, actually. It was really, really great. And this group of people I work with, it's my lifetime coaching circle. So a lot of them have been with me for a long time. It doesn't mean you have to be there for life, but you can be there for as long as you want to. It's an open invitation for you to stay and be part of this community for as long as you feel it serves you. And so some of these people have been with me for quite a while, and we have some new members in there as well. But it's a really great community, really awesome, like just supportive cohort of people. And we get on every week and we just talk about life and love and whatever's on people's hearts, whatever's on people's minds. And we talk about our healing journeys and just all kinds of things. And it's a really supportive and wonderful community. And I'm so grateful to lead this and to have these people in my life. It's just really beautiful. But we had a powerful session last night talking about some things in terms of healing and, carrying stories from our past and all these different kinds of things. But somebody brought up towards the end, Jay Shetty's book, The 8 Rules of Love. And if you've ever read that book, I read it a few years back, and one of my people in my coaching program are reading it right now. And there's a really powerful thing that he talks about in that book. He talks about the distinction between loneliness and solitude. And, we were talking about some of the, people in the group, our relationship with the holidays and things. And I thought this was such a powerful distinction. This idea of the difference between loneliness and solitude. And if we're feeling lonely, how do we translate that loneliness into solitude, which solitude is a very empowering experience, and loneliness tends to be a little bit of a disempowering experience, right? But something my wife and I have talked about for years is that, you can be alone without being lonely. And finding peace in aloneness is actually, I think, what Jay Shetty's talking about when he talks about solitude, right? And this ability to find peace and meaning and depth in our aloneness. And I think that's particularly relevant right now during the holidays, when many of us may be feeling alone for different reasons, or we may be reflecting on the year. And, a lot of times we can feel some guilt or some shame if our year didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, whether that's financially or relationally or in whatever ways, right? We might carry some weight of, I don't feel like this year was a success, or I don't feel like I accomplished what I wanted to this year. And sometimes there's just some things we need to release and let go of and find some peace so we don't carry that energy into the next year. And I think all of this is so relevant. I'll share for myself, like I spent a lot of holidays alone. And I remember I would, get invited to this person's house or that person's house. And I haven't really had a family. I mean, not a close family. Like my mom, I left when I was 13. My dad's narcissist, alcoholic, and those of you who have heard my story know a little bit about that. But so I haven't really had a family, and throughout all my years when I was single and dating, I spent the holidays in many different places. I'd get invited to my boss's house, or I'd get invited to a friend's house, or sometimes I would just be alone and just doing it by myself. And so I know a lot about the different ways that we spend the holidays when we're not with a partner. And I would say even now, and I'll share this, is that, I'm with my wife and we go to her family's house for the holidays. But it's not necessarily even an ideal experience, right? It's nice to have a family around. It's nice to not be alone for the holidays. But, just to give an example, her family is like traditional Portuguese. It's not the food I would normally eat during the holidays. It's not like I don't even speak the language. I'm not involved in half of the conversations, right? So, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. I'm very grateful for these beautiful people in my life and to be invited and included on their holidays. But, every year, I'm from South Florida. I moved up here a few years ago to live with my wife. And every year, my friends in South Florida, my community, the community that, became my family over the years, they all get together to celebrate Christmas Eve. And I never get to be a part of that because I'm here with my wife. And again, I'm not complaining. That's my choice. That's my commitment. I'm very content with that choice. But I'll just be real, is like there's a feeling of missing out or a feeling of loneliness or a feeling of isolation. And that, those are the people that, I feel connected to on a soul level, and I don't get to celebrate the holidays with them every year. And so I'm just saying this to say is that, like, even in a relationship or even, wherever our lives might be, there might be elements of feeling this loneliness, feeling this separation, feeling this isolation. Being in South Florida, it's funny. I never experienced winter for the 16 years I lived in Florida. And now I experience winter every year since I've lived here in New Jersey. And I experience like a seasonal depression, right? Which I think when it's cold outside, and those of you who have lived in that, you know what I'm talking about, right? And so that wasn't even a part of my world. And now every year there's a little bit of like a sadness or a loneliness that sinks in like the depths of winter. And I just want to share this message to say that, like, wherever you might be right now, it's okay to be there. And whatever season of life you're in, it's a valid season of your life. And whatever you might be going through or feeling disconnected from or feeling isolated or feeling somehow unworthy or it would be better if I were here or there or in a different place, I just want to give you permission in today's episode to be where you are right now. And so I want to start with that. Speaking into this idea of loneliness versus solitude. And I think there are seasons in all of our lives where we will be alone for whatever reason, right? Whether we're single, whether some people I know have coached many people who were with the love of their life for years and then that person passes away, right? And then they go through a season of being alone. And then maybe they meet someone else. But there's all different versions of this, right? But being alone is a valid part of life. And being alone during the holidays is a valid experience. And so I just want to specifically speak to anyone who feels alone specifically in the holiday season and feeling like I should have more people around me or I should have a partner, or maybe you're going to your family's house for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate and everyone there is with a partner and you're going single, right? Like, I just want to speak into that like there's a lot of limiting assumptions and misunderstandings that we have about the holidays or where we're supposed to be, and not just the holidays, but any time in our lives, right? And I'm talking specifically for those of us who might be feeling the pressure right now around the holidays, but any time in our lives, right? We could go to a wedding, we could go anywhere and feel this pressure of where I am in my life is not okay. And I think we need to really give ourselves some grace and understand that every place that we might find ourselves in our life is a valid place to be. And every season in our lives is setting the tone for the next season, right? And so I want you to just connect to that right now, that wherever you are in your life and whatever judgments you may have about whether it's good or bad or right or wrong or better or worse or whatever, but wherever you are in your life is setting the tone for where you're going to be next in your life. And sometimes, like, I work with a lot of single people, and, sometimes single people will share things with me like, all of my sisters are married, or all of my friends are married, or, I see couples everywhere. And there's a lot of assumptions that we make around that. Like, everybody who's in a relationship is actually happy. And how many couples go home after Christmas dinner and fight with each other? Right? How many couples have been together for 20 years or 15 years or whatever, but they're really unhappy and they feel really lonely inside of their relationships? And of course, not all relationships are that way. There are a lot of happy ones too. But what I want to point out is this idea that everyone is happy except for me, or everyone has what they want except for me, or I'm the only one feeling this way, or that if I were in a relationship, or that if I were in a different place in my life, it would feel differently. And that's a very, very misguided idea. Because the truth is that no matter where you are on the holiday or any time in your life, it is what you make of it. And if you're in a season of loneliness right now, or I should say not even loneliness, but a season of being alone, right, where maybe there aren't a lot of people around you, or there aren't a lot of, you're not in a relationship or anything like that. If you're in a season, that season is not inherently bad. And a season where you are with someone is not inherently better. Sometimes we'll romanticize our past relationships and be like, it was so much better when I was with that person, but you only think that because you're comparing it to the feeling of loneliness that you feel right now. But when you think of what it was actually like when you were with that person, and yes, maybe there were some good times, right? But when you think about what it was actually like to be with that person, it wasn't that great. How often did you fight? How often did you feel that your needs were unmet? How often did you feel unsatisfied? Right? That relationship isn't often what we actually romanticize it to be in our head. But we do that because we're contrasting it with maybe the pain of being alone. And I think it's a very simple solution that our survival responses can kind of get a hold of and be like, if I could just find someone, it would be better. But I would like to present this idea for everyone that just being with someone isn't necessarily better. In fact, something that I see a lot with my clients and I've recognized for myself in my life is that, when we start to really become conscious, being with the wrong person is actually worse than being alone. And so when we look at this idea of loneliness versus solitude, solitude is a very enriching experience. In fact, I think it's important to say that if we cannot be with ourselves, we're not ready to be in a relationship. If we are very dissatisfied in our lives as they are without someone else in them, we are going to carry that dissatisfaction into the relationship, and the relationship is going to be unsatisfying as well. And there might be some high points where you're excited and you're falling in love and you get this rush of dopamine that, mixes it up a little bit. And that can kind of trick our minds, right? Where it seems like it's satisfying. But when you look at all your relationships of the past, we can very clearly say, if they were what you ultimately wanted them to be, they wouldn't have ended. And whatever the reason, you might say, well, I didn't choose for it to end. The other person chose it to end. I still want to be in it. Well, do you really want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with you? Right? When we think about the idea of being in a partnership, in our dream of partnership, that partner chooses us in return. There's no version of dream of partnership where we're with someone who doesn't want to be with us. Right? We always want someone who wants us in return. So even the idea, well, I really wanted that relationship and they left me and I would still be in it. Well, you didn't really want that relationship because you wanted someone who wanted you in return. And what I'm really getting at here is that a state of solitude, a state of being alone, is not a bad place to be. something that was brought up in my coaching circle last night, the Inspired Love Coaching Circle, which, by the way, I just want to say, as we're talking about this, if anybody would be interested in joining our group in the new year, becoming part of our community and having this lifetime membership and this ongoing support from me and my team and our community, I do want to do something special for those of you who join before the new year. And so for those of you who want to start the new year on the right foot and really jump in and get connected and be part of this group, I want to offer you $1,000 off the total cost of tuition. And this is a one-time investment. You make your one-time investment and you have lifetime access. And that includes an incredible curriculum, an incredible community of people. It includes hands-on weekly coaching. And we can set up a call and talk about all that. I'll leave the link to do that in the show notes below wherever you're listening to this. But I say all that to say that if that is something you want to do, I want to offer you that special opportunity to save $1,000 on the cost of tuition and really start your new year on the right foot. But that being said, someone brought something up in the group last night, and I thought it was really powerful. And she said, she's talking to her therapist about this, and she said that, what I'm practicing is that I am shifting the internal narrative from being alone or being lonely to that I'm learning to enjoy being my own company. I am learning to enjoy being my own company. And I think that's a revolutionary concept for so many of us, right? Like the idea that we could thoroughly enjoy being our own company. And some of you who have accessed this in yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But some of us, we inherently feel like being with someone is better than not being with someone. And that when I am alone or when I'm experiencing a period of solitude in my life, I am worse off than when I'm in a relationship. And it's very interesting. Like I think I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. I think that being in a healthy, conscious relationship, like I'll say my relationship with my wife, which has not always been easy and it's taken us a lot of work to get here. And those of you who know my story know exactly what I'm talking about. But, my wife and I have been through a lot together. We've done a lot of work to have the relationship we have today, and every bit of it was worth it. But we have a really solid relationship. And so I would say that being in this relationship is better than being alone. And I can confidently say that. I mean, look, I talked earlier about leaving my community, moving to New Jersey, right? It's 100% worth it. Right? Getting to share my life with this person and build the life and the home that we have here has been totally worth it. And I've been in relationships in the past that were not worth it at all. There have been periods in my life, and some of you have made this choice for yourself as well, right? There have been periods in my life where I have chosen that I would rather be alone than be in this relationship. And if you've ever left a relationship, then you know what that feels like. Because when we get really good at being our own company, when we get really good at enjoying ourselves for company, our standard for relationship gets higher. Right? When I can be happy and content with myself as company, that naturally raises my standard for relationship, because any relationship that comes in my life is going to have to be better than it would be if I were by myself. In fact, I think this is such an essential skill to develop. This is something that we truly, truly need to develop in ourselves, because if we don't do this, we're going to naturally be sucked in by any relationship that comes along. And that's just how it's going to be. And so it's actually an essential relational skill to be able to embrace a period of solitude. That's an essential relational skill that we all need to learn. And so what I want to invite you to, if you're in a period of solitude or a period of feeling lonely right now, and again, solitude and loneliness, as Jay Shetty talks about in his book, solitude and loneliness are two distinct experiences of the exact same situation, right? The situation is I am alone, but I can be alone and be lonely, or I can be alone and be in solitude. And if you're in that situation right now, the opportunity that's here for you, and I know during this holiday season, it might be heightened, right? It might feel more potent to you during this holiday season than it typically does. And I get that. But even that potency or that heightened sense of it can be a gift, because it can make the feelings of loneliness and the experience of loneliness more present for you than they would be any other time of your life. And it can give you an opportunity to really embrace those feelings and integrate those feelings and be with those feelings and find peace with them. It can give you an opportunity to really embrace solitude. And so I want to define what I mean when I say solitude versus loneliness, right? And loneliness is defined by like an emptiness, right? And I think we all know what that feeling is. That feeling of loneliness, I feel empty. There's a desperation about it. There's a sense of unworthiness about it, right? Like, I think what's often operating underneath loneliness is the feeling that if I were more worthy, if I were somehow more or better or different than how I am, I would not be alone right now. And it's because there's something wrong with me. It's because there's something that's not right about me, something that's not worthy or lovable or enough in some way, that I'm alone. And if I weren't wrong or bad or unworthy or unlovable, if there wasn't something fundamentally wrong with me, then I would be in a relationship or I would be with someone right now. I wouldn't be alone like I am. And I want you to just check in. If you're feeling lonely, like notice that underlying current. So there's the experience of being alone, of being by yourself. And then it's overlaid with judgment about what that means. I'm alone, and because I'm alone, it means that I'm not enough. If I were enough, I wouldn't be alone. And then with that added layer of judgment overlaying that, then there's the emotional weight that's tied to that. I feel awful because I'm not enough. I feel hopeless. I feel like it's never going to happen. I feel like I don't deserve it, or that, and the emotion builds on the thought, and the thought builds on the emotion, right? Have you ever noticed that like emotional thought relationship where I think poorly about my situation, I'm not happy where I am, I have a thought about that, and that makes me feel something. And then the more I feel into that thought, the more I think about it. And the more I think about it, the more I feel it. And it's like a self-perpetuating loop. The thought feeds the emotion, and the emotion feeds the thought. Solitude is a completely different relationship with the exact same situation, right? Yes, I'm alone, but it's okay to be alone. It's valid to be alone. It doesn't inherently mean something about me just because I'm alone. People who aren't alone are not inherently better off. In fact, I can even recognize many of them are worse off, right? Like, I'm actually better off being alone than I am to be in a 20-year marriage with an abusive narcissist. That's an extreme example, but a lot of us have been there. And not only is it neutral, it can actually be positive. I want to go back to that thing that the woman shared in my group last night. I am learning to enjoy my own company. I'm learning to enjoy myself for company. We can even frame this in a spiritual sense, right? We can even frame this in a sense of like, I'm on a spiritual level. I'm doing spiritual work to learn to embrace solitude, to learn to embrace who I am without always looking to someone else for validation or for acceptance, or to tell me that I'm enough, to tell me that I'm worthy, right? I can embrace who I am without that external metric defining who I am or giving me that validation. And we can even frame this season of our lives or frame this situation that we're in as a divine gift. Thank God that I get to go through this holiday season by myself, and I get to really be present to what that feels like. And I get to really examine my judgments and my assumptions and my fears and my limiting beliefs and my feelings of unworthiness. And I get to really be with this and really examine this. And what a gift that is. I know some of you might think, a gift, are you crazy? Like, it's not a gift, it's awful. Well, it's awful until it's not. It's awful until you get to the other side of those beliefs and those assumptions and those doubts and those fears. And then on the other side of that, there's peace. Sometimes it is in sitting with and facing up to all the things that we don't like about ourselves, or all the things that we fear about ourselves, or all the parts of ourselves where we carry shame or regret or guilt, or whatever it might be. And sometimes it's only in being with those things that we can let them go. And what a lot of us have done is whenever we've felt lonely, we've chased connection, relationship, keeping ourselves busy, going out and doing this thing or that thing, or keeping ourselves distracted and occupied. And what that has been, it has been an attempt to prevent ourselves from feeling these feelings of discomfort. But this is a self-perpetuating cycle, and that's what I think is so important to recognize. This is a self-perpetuating cycle. The more I chase that, the more I create and recreate that. Right? There's got to be, and if we talk about creating a conscious relationship, and like this has been my personal experience, I spent a lot of time in solitude. I mean, I used to spend Friday nights at home meditating and reading A Course in Miracles. My wife, when she talks about her journey, she used to spend her nights alone in her room, journaling. And I'm not saying that we never had any fun. We were both involved in communities and had friendships, and we had thriving single lives. But something I know about myself and my wife and so many of the people that I work with and so many of the miracles I've seen is that it's a common theme that most people who create a really healthy conscious relationship first develop an ability to be with themselves. It's part of the game. And I want to say, when I talk about the ability to be with myself, it doesn't mean that there were nights when I was sitting at home meditating and reading A Course in Miracles, or I wasn't always so spiritual. Sometimes I would just be watching TV or whatever, right? But there were times, I remember nights when I would lay alone in bed and I would just think to myself, wow, I would really love if someone was here with me right now. Right? It would be really nice just to hold someone or make love to someone, or that would just be so nice. I really wish I wasn't alone tonight. There were those times. But something else that's maybe miraculous or magical that happened was I learned to just be with myself during those times. To be with myself and recognize that it's okay that I am where I am right now. And that's not today, that's not tonight, but that's coming. And so these are times that we all will face in our lives, right? We will all have those moments or those times or those experiences in our lives where we're forced to be alone. And the question is, how do we relate with that aloneness? Can we embrace the solitude, or do we constantly feed and reinforce the loneliness? And if we're to really simplify this, in the loneliness, there's a feeling that I am not enough. In the solitude, there's a feeling that I am enough. In the loneliness, there's a feeling that there's something wrong with me. In the solitude, there's a feeling that there's something right with me. In the loneliness, there's an idea that if I were in a better place in my life, I wouldn't be alone right now. But in solitude, there's a deep, resonant understanding that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it may not always be the most comfortable place to be, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. You see, this is our opportunity to really get to know ourselves. This is our opportunity to really get to know who we are without that external validation. Right? Like, you don't really get that opportunity when you're in a relationship with someone and you're constantly having that mirror and they're constantly reflecting back to you your sense of self. And you're constantly looking to them to say, do they like me? Am I enough? Do they want to see me? Do they care about me? Do they love me? You're not really getting the opportunity in that context to discover who you are in and of yourself. Right? You're not really getting that opportunity. But when you are by yourself in your room at midnight and you feel lonely and you have to sit with those feelings and there's nobody who's going to come and save you, there's nobody who's going to make you feel better about it. There's nobody who's going to hold you and tell you that it's okay and all of that. That's where you really learn to be that for yourself. You know, when I think back to the times in my life when I was alone, there were times when I would definitely feel desperate. There were times when I would definitely feel unworthy. There were times, as I said, I remember many nights where I couldn't sleep and, all of this. There were these times. But then I also remember times when I would just feel the fullness of my own heart and it would be like, wow, I have so much love to give. And not that I needed to do anything with it. It was just so beautiful to feel and see that within myself. That's something I never would have gotten in touch with if I had been out in connection with others and distracted. That was something I found in solitude. Right? Really feeling my own energy. Feeling the fullness of who I am. Feeling deeply connected to myself and to life and to God and to the universe. And by extension of all that, I'm deeply connected to other people. And when you tap in to that feeling, that experience of yourself, which what I'm talking about is something that lives inside every single one of us. When you tap into that feeling and that experience of yourself, you can't think there's something wrong with you. You feel the essence of life, the essence of spirit inside of you. And you know that you're perfect, whole, and complete. And I think it is that recognition and being able to really tap into that part of yourself and bring that part of yourself into your life, that is what attracts the right partner into your life at the right time. And that's something we find in solitude. That's something we find when we are by ourselves. It's not something we find when we are constantly looking into the eyes of other people saying, do you like me? Do you love me? Am I enough? And this is something that we've never really been taught, right? Like, when in school did they teach us how to be in solitude? Which of our parents taught us how to be in solitude? At what point in our lives did someone sit us down and show us how to do this and be with this and practice this? That's never happened. In fact, quite the opposite has happened, where we've constantly been told to go out and be successful and find love. And we've been taught from childhood that our value lies in what the world thinks about us. Starting with, what did our parents think of us and were we enough to impress them and get their approval? And then when we got into school, what did our teachers think of us? And were we a straight A student? Were we getting the approval from our teachers and our classmates, right? Were we fitting in with the kids at school? Were we boyfriend, girlfriend with the popular kids or whatever, right? Like we've been systematically taught at every stage of our lives that our worth and our value is in what others think of us. But nobody has taught us how to really sit in solitude and find that worth and value within ourselves. And if you are feeling alone, especially this time of year, first I want to say that my heart goes out to you, and I have been there, and I know how painful that can feel. But the next thing I want to say is, you're right where you're supposed to be. And this season that you're in right now is setting the tone, it's setting the stage for the next season. Like, this is what I want to say to everyone. If you are alone right now and you want a relationship, you will find one. And honestly, it's probably not even that far away. Probably within the next year, you'll find one. But the quality of that relationship is going to be dependent on the energy that you are cultivating in this time while you're alone. If you're cultivating a continued sense of desperation and unworthiness and trying to escape your experience, an inability to be with it, to really allow it to penetrate your heart, to sit with it, to find contentment in being your own company, as we've been talking about, right? If you are cultivating that energy during this season, that is going to separate, or that is going to set the tone for the next relationship that comes into your life. And relationships that are formed out of desperation and unworthiness do not last. And for as long as they do last, they are not fulfilling. And you know this because you can look to your past experience and past relationships and see that while there may have been ups and downs and highs and lows, they were ultimately unfulfilling. If they weren't, they would still be present in your life. And so your ability to find contentment, if you're able to spend this holiday season with friends and family, to really enjoy those friends and family, to really enjoy the experience of being with the friends and family without going, well, this is fine, but it'd be so much better if I was in a couple right now, if I was with a partner. Or maybe you don't have friends and family around. Right? Maybe you are really spending this season alone. And if so, can you make your own traditions? Can you find joy and contentment in being your own company during this season? Maybe you decide to travel. Maybe you decide to decorate. Maybe you decide to sit and watch your favorite Christmas movies. Maybe you decide to go out to some kind of community function. Maybe you volunteer. There are so many things you could do. And you don't have to do anything, but what I'm getting at is, if you're with friends or family, if you're alone, if whatever the situation might be, there are ways to truly find contentment in this holiday season. And you might have moments of loneliness. And so I remember I was telling you earlier what a great session we had last night. It was really, really powerful. And there was one student in particular that we just did some really incredible work. We did a big somatic process with her and really helped her, right in front of us, just release some powerful energy. And anyway, the thing that came up here, and I want to just share a little bit about this, is that she was sharing a little bit about some wounding that came from her father and that she'd been carrying a feeling of unworthiness throughout her life. And what I coached her on, and I want to coach you who are listening to this, I want to coach you on the same thing. What I coached her on was that the feeling that she's having doesn't mean what she thinks it means. And so if you feel lonely right now, that's valid. It's valid. It's okay. I hope in nothing I'm saying today do you hear me shaming you for feeling lonely, because there is no shame in that. It's normal. It's natural. It's part of the human experience. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I'm saying is it's not the entire picture. But she was sharing about some really heavy pain that she'd been carrying for a long time, stemming all the way back to things that happened when she was 6 years old with her father. And what I said to her was that you are feeling this pain in the present moment, this emptiness, this loneliness, this feeling of unworthiness or inadequacy or whatever it is. You are feeling this pain in this present moment of your life. And in this present moment, which by the way, I want to say for everybody, this is a brand new moment, right? Whatever you are feeling right now, here and now, today, when you're listening to this podcast, this is a brand new moment in your life. This moment has never existed before. And in this brand new moment of your life, you are having a brand new experience. You are feeling energy moving inside your body that we call emotion, and you're feeling that in a unique way. In this present moment. This has never happened before. And you might say, well, Shane, that doesn't really make sense because I felt this way for years. And this is what I want to say. No, you haven't felt this way for years. But what's happening is you are connecting a storyline to the things that you're feeling in every new moment, in every new experience. You are connecting a storyline to it. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, right? I feel lonely, and that means I'm not worthy. That means I'm not lovable. That means I'm wounded. That means I have no hope for the future. That means on and on and on and on and on. Going back to when I didn't get the validation from my parents. Going back to when my high school boyfriend or girlfriend dumped me. Going back to when I got cheated on. Going back to when I got betrayed. Going back to wherever I take it back to. And you are having an experience in the present moment of your life, in the here and now, an experience that has never happened before. But you're not really experiencing that experience because you are framing that experience through a past experience that you had. You say, I feel lonely, and because I feel lonely, that means there's no hope. That means I'm unworthy. That means I'm unlovable. That means there's something wrong with me. It means I'm not enough. If I was enough, I wouldn't feel this way. If I was enough, this wouldn't be happening right now. If I was more or better or different, I would be in a different place right now. And so you're not even present to the experience you're actually having because you've already decided what it means about you, what it means about your future. And so it just causes a kind of depression. What is actually happening right now is you are having vital life energy move through your body in a very unique way. And yes, that might feel heavy. That might feel uncomfortable. That might be challenging. And so what we try to do is we try to repress it. And how do we repress it? We repress it by saying what it means, by attaching a narrative to it. You see, what our ego does is our ego attaches storylines and narratives to our emotional experience. And that's a form of repression. It's a form of controlling energy in our body that feels out of control. The energy feels uncomfortable and scary and unpredictable. And you'll relate to this when I say it most likely. Is some people think if I really let myself feel this, it would crush me. Some people say if I started crying, I would never stop. And so I just can't let myself go there. And we're not even letting ourselves have the experience that is happening right now because we're too busy trying to control it through our storyline. And this is what happened in last night's session. We got to witness this in this woman, is she allowed herself to actually feel what was happening for her in the present moment. Right there in the room, right in front of everybody. She was able to actually feel what was happening for her for the first time maybe ever in her life. She was able to separate the emotional experience that she was having from the repetitive storyline that she's been carrying about what it means. And when she was able to do that, all of a sudden we watched her face light up. It looked like she lost 20 pounds, just like, just fell off of her. And then I asked her this. When she was in the heat of the experience and she was feeling it fully, I asked her this. I said, now I know this may feel a little uncomfortable. This may feel challenging to really let yourself feel all of this right now. But what I want to know is, are you okay? And she said, yes, I'm okay. And I said, can you feel what you're feeling? Like, are you able to feel it? And is it okay to feel it? And she said, yes, I'm able to feel it and it's okay to feel it. And I said, this might happen from time to time in your life. You might just feel this way. And when that happens from time to time in your life, can you just be with it without making it mean that there's something wrong with you, without making it mean that you're not enough, without making it mean that you're not lovable, without making it mean that there's no hope for your future? Can you just be with this feeling? And she said, yes, I can. And then right in front of all of us, we just watched the feeling pass. See, the idea that if I were to start crying, I'd never start crying is just simply not, or if I were to start crying, I would never stop crying. That idea is just simply not true. You'll cry for maybe 10, 15 minutes and then you'll be done. And then you'll feel better afterwards. And maybe it comes in waves, especially if you've been repressing this for a long time and you've been disconnected from your body and your true feeling for a long time. Maybe it comes in waves. Maybe every few days, or even in an intense period of grief, maybe every few hours. You'll be hit with this wave and you'll just need to feel your way through it. But what you're actually doing is you are releasing energy that has kept you in a repetitive state of mind and body, in a repetitive, limiting identity. And you've been carrying these heavy feelings with you, and these heavy feelings have produced heavy thoughts, and the heavy thoughts have reinforced the heavy feelings, and it's caused you to see yourself and think about yourself in a certain way, and identify a certain way, and frame your life situation in a certain way. And it becomes this repetitive story that you tell yourself, and then all your relationships and every aspect of your life just simply reflects that energetic state and those thoughts and feelings. You see, we carry this heavy, painful energy with us throughout our lives, and we think that, oh, well, when I meet the right person, when I get into the right relationship, it's going to go away. What we don't realize is every person we meet and every relationship we create is reflecting that energetic state to us. Nothing outside of you is the answer. When I was working with this woman last night, the last thing I said to her was, I said, I want you to realize this, that feeling this way, having these feelings, is not what's wrong with you, it's what's right with you. It means you're an alive, vital, energetic human being who has access to their emotions. If you didn't feel these things, that would be something wrong. And some of you know, you feel lonely or painful or desperate in or out of a relationship, and then you get into a relationship, and after a short period of time, you feel the same way. Your relationship status does not change the way you feel. But what does change the way you feel is your ability to be fully present to whatever you are feeling now. To really allow yourself to feel the fullness of that energy, whatever it is. And there's actually no judge, like we judge it, but it doesn't fundamentally mean anything. The energy that is present in your body and whatever it feels like is not good or bad. It just is. The emotional experience of loneliness. Maybe it feels like a pit in your stomach or a pressure in your chest, or maybe it feels like nervousness or anxiety, or you feel a little shaky or uncomfortable. But whatever the emotional experience of loneliness is not a good or a bad thing. It's just energy moving through your body in a certain way. And then the storyline that you attach to that makes it good or bad, makes it right or wrong. And so I just really want to encourage everyone. Again, I want to bring it back to basics today. And I just want to very simply say that wherever you are right now, however you're feeling right now, it's okay to be there. It's valid. It doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It doesn't mean that there's no hope for the future. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be this way. Can you accept where you are right now? Whatever that is, everything that's included with it. Can you surrender to where you are right now? Can you find the moments of joy in your life today? And can you build on those? Is there one little thing you can do today to make your life and your experience of your life just 1% better? A way that you can love or care for yourself, a way that you can tend to your needs, a way that you can show up for yourself emotionally. Even if this season of your life feels difficult or heavy or challenging, is there just one little thing you could do today to stop resisting it and fighting with it and surrender to it and just elevate your experience of it just by 1%? And if you did that every day, after 100 days, your experience would be 100% better. There is nothing wrong with your life. There is nothing wrong with you. The only thing that makes it seem that way is a narrative and a storyline that you've been repetitively telling yourself, probably since you were a child. But if you can be in the present moment, be in your present experience in the here and now without attaching it to some repetitive storyline from your past that has been telling you that you're not enough for whatever reason, your experience of the here and now will change. And so I really want to invite you in this season, which I know is a particularly emotional season for a lot of people. And you might look at other people and you might say, well, they have it better because they have kids or they have a family or they have whatever. And I want to say that maybe not. And I hope it is. I hope it's wonderful for everybody. But you don't know what their experience of it is. But a lot of people struggle this time of year, in a relationship, out of a relationship, with family, without family. This can be a hard time of year for a lot of people. The idea that your experience is worse is not true. I promise there are a lot of people who have it worse and there are a lot of people who have it better. But it's not about what anyone else is experiencing. It's about what you do with where you are right now. And I want to invite you to embrace this season and all that comes with it. And if you feel alone right now, or if you are alone right now, try to embrace the power and the contentment that you can find in solitude, rather than continuing to reinforce a narrative of loneliness and inadequacy. That is available to you right now. And if you're going to be alone for this season of your life, whatever that means, however long that might be in that in a way that sets the tone for higher quality connection in the next season. Be in that in a way that brings forth the most contented and healthy and well-adjusted version of yourself, so you have something higher to bring to whatever relationship comes into your life next. Elevate your experience of being alone so that your standard for relationship gets higher. And with so much love and so much compassion for all of the challenging experiences that we go through on this human journey, I want to let you know that you are enough. There is nothing wrong with where you are right now. And you have the ability to find peace with who you are and where you are in the here and now. Last thing I want to say, I mentioned it earlier, but I do just want to extend this special holiday invite. If you would like to surround yourself with a conscious community of people who are growing and working together, if you would like to have access to a life-changing healing curriculum, if you would like to work hands-on with me and my team and my group of people, and really just start the new year on the right foot with an incredible amount of love and support and dedication and commitment to you, my Inspired Love Coaching Circle is a lifetime membership. So that means you make a one-time investment. Once you're in for life. You have access to weekly coaching. You have access to a life-changing curriculum. You have ongoing support. You're surrounding yourself with a beautiful community of conscious people who are going to lift you up and want the best for you and support you on your journey. And it is truly, truly an incredible community to be a part of. And it's getting better all the time. And so if you want to really start your new year with this, between now and the end of the year, if you book a call to learn more about the program, we're going to offer you $1,000 off on the total cost of tuition. This is not an opportunity I offer very often. It's something I generally offer around the holidays. But if you want to take advantage of this right now to start your new year with myself, my team, my community, and really get the support, guidance you need to heal whatever's holding you back in life, to create conscious, loving, deep relationships, and not just relationships, but just an overall joy and vitality in your life. That's what this community is about. And I would love to have you be a part of that as we move into the new year. And I want to make you this special offer so that you can get started right away. So I'm going to leave the information to book your call and learn more about the program in the show notes below wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you've tuned in today, thank you so much for being with me. It's not often that I do this. I usually live stream the episodes, but it's nice every now and then to just sit down by myself and kind of free flow with my thoughts and just, send a more personalized and private message to the listeners. So I'm glad I got to do that today. I want to wish you the absolute best holiday season, whatever your situation is. Make it wonderful for you, right? That's my encouragement. Whatever your situation is, make it wonderful for you. And that is available. And again, if you want to be a part of a thriving community in the new year and have my hands-on support and love and guidance on a week-to-week basis, we have an opportunity available for you to take advantage of that. So thank you so much for being with me today. Big love, big blessings. Wishing you a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year. I'll be back with you next week. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.